My wife cheated on me, and my mother took her side. Last night, my wife of 7 years wanted to relax. She went to the den after dinner and watched her shows while I switched between the Spurs game, football, soccer, and some chores I had to do. Then she opened the wine and drank 2 bottles of it. Around midnight, I went to see how she was and found her passed out on the sofa. I was about to lift her up when her iWatch thing vibrated and a message showed up on the screen. It said something like, "Haha, I can't do that, my name would beat the crap out of me." I was confused, so I looked closer and saw that it was my wife chatting with a mate of mine. He's not a close mate, but someone I've played 5-a-sides with for years, had drinks with, and known since we were teens. We used to call him Jacket Holder because he would always hold the jackets when we got into fights as kids. So I pressed on the conversation while the thing was still on her wrist and scrolled up to the top, and it seemed like he was the one who started it, unless she deleted some messages. There was a lot of flirting and a lot of winking, but nothing that you could call cheating outright. Then I went back to last night, and when she got drunk, she started asking him for sex blatantly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not quoting exactly because I can't remember the exact words, but she said something about how much she always fancied him, how no one would ever find out if he really wanted to kill me, and who the last person who killed me was, that she was good at keeping secrets. I tried to scroll on her watch, but there were no other messages, and I didn't know her phone code. I put her in her bed and just sat in the kitchen in shock until I fell asleep, and then got up for work around 5:30. When I got in my work van, I just slumped down on the wheel and realized I couldn't handle it. So I went back in the house, grabbed a half-empty bottle of vodka, topped it up with Coke, and went for a walk along the railway line. We live near a lot of woods and an old railway line that goes on for miles, and I've walked about half of it. I'm sitting under a railway bridge like a damn troll right now, just fuming about the whole thing. You'd probably think there was a fire from about a mile away because of the steam coming out of my ears. So how do I handle this? I don't want to talk to her. I can't even stand to see her after reading that. It was like a knife in my heart. I just feel like every bit of love I had for her has vanished into thin air after reading her pleading like that damn gross. I honestly want to cut her off, man. If I could, I would never speak to her again. The whole "I'm good at keeping secrets" was the thing that really got me though. Like, who are you even? It stinks, but it's a matter of how deep down the rabbit hole do I want to go? I don't care if I'm being honest, I'm just finished. I've never felt so betrayed and disgusted in all my life. The thing is, I've invested so much in her, not just as a partner, but as a person. I loved her so much and thought her personality, and by extension, my personality reflected that of good people. To realize she's a backstabbing snake makes me feel like a snake. I feel like a worse person than I was yesterday. The only way I can describe it is for someone you admired, took advice and life lessons from, to suddenly find out they were a pedo or just a downright creep. Your entire perception of yourself and who you are would be broken because you've listened to what they've said and invested time into a creep. God, I'm talking nonsense. I'm sorry. I'm lucky in that our house is owned by my parents, who 6 years ago moved to a retirement village and we moved in. The house will be left to me when they die, but I don't and hopefully won't own it for a long time. They didn't want to deal with the maintenance and all the issues, etc., and wanted to spend their final days in peace. So when we do divorce, my soon-to-be ex won't be getting her hands on it. So what do I do then? I'm honestly thinking of just keeping quiet and kicking her out. Also, while walking here, it crossed my mind to get my mate, who's a locksmith, to secretly change the locks today. I could tell her any old rubbish about something from the doors being broken. She won't care what's going on anyways, as long as I'm around. Then, after he's done, lock the front door and tell her to come out and look at something out the back. When she comes out, just run back in and lock the door behind me. That sounds so childish, right? But seriously, I don't know what to do. Right now I'm staring at a bottle, and I feel like my whole life is collapsing. As for that jerk so-called friend of mine, there's no doubt he was up to something here. There's also no doubt I wouldn't have found out about this at all, so I'll be seeing him very soon. Forget holding jackets, he'll be holding his face. Wednesday, the 28th of October. So yesterday, after I posted and was in a total wreck, 2 dog walkers came over to see if I was okay, as I was clearly worrying them. I told them everything, they listened, and the first thing one of them said to me was, "Son, the worst thing you can do right now is drink. It'll make things worse." I have to thank her for that, because I was on the road to hell at that point. I tossed the vodka, contacted a friend, and he said I could come to his for a bit to cool off. He was at work, but told me where the spare key was. We live in a small town of around 15,000 people, and he wasn't too far away. So once I got there, I sat on his sofa just trying to calm down. All morning I was getting loads of texts and calls from my wife, asking where I was and what the hell was going on, as my work van was still in the driveway, and I was nowhere to be found. I text her back, saying that there was an issue with the engine, so I got a ride to work, which she seemed to believe as she just texts back saying okay. When my friend got back from his work at about 5 o'clock, I told him everything that had happened and asked him what he thought. I also told him not to tell anyone about jacket holder, as that might then get back to my wife, which I didn't want at this point. I would deal with him later. By that, I mean I'll reveal what a little rat he is. Hitting him doesn't help me at all right now. As a side note to the people saying he did nothing wrong, he messaged my wife first. He was being very flirty. He even bothering to message my wife for, in the first place. He only knows her from a distance. Barely. Look, I've got no problem with two adults talking to each other, but they barely knew each other, and it was flirty from the start, as far as I could see. I think they've met each other while out and about, and it's gotten flirty then. So my friend persuaded me to try and keep a low profile and see what I could find out, but at the same time talk to a lawyer and get things moving in terms of finding out my options, which I have done today. He took me home about 6 o'clock, and I was honestly exhausted by that point. I think the adrenaline pumping all day then suddenly stopping knocks it out of you, so I was very tired when I got home. The moment I walked through the door, I knew something was wrong, as my wife was on me right away, asking me all kinds of questions about work. I asked her why she even cared. She said that I'd left my big flask and my lunch bag in the front passenger side seat, and something's been up today. She could sense it. I was gonna lie, but I was just too drained. I couldn't be arsed to put up any sort of act, so I just said, yeah, there is something up. That when I was tucking her drunk arse in last night, a message popped up on her iWatch, which I read and all the others, and that she was a filthy cheat that I wanted nothing to do with. Her attitude went from an arms-crossed person in charge to scared little girl in about a second. Good at keeping secrets, eh? Pleading that little rat for sex, eh? Yep, saw it all. She started crying and I just walked away and upstairs to the shower. When I got out, she was sitting on the top stair crying still, and the excuses began right away. How she was drunk, vulnerable, had never done anything like that before, how he had messaged her first and it didn't mean anything. She was never gonna go through with it. Pretty much everything that everyone on here was saying she would say, like she had the playbook out. The only thing she didn't do was try and blame me. She probably knew I would have kicked her right out the door if she tried that. I told her that I wanted a divorce and her out of the house within a month. Also told her that she was moving to the spare room. I've been pretty much ignoring her ever since, just glaring at her and shaking my head when she starts babbling nonsense. I don't want to hear it. She slept in the spare room last night and I haven't spoken to or texted with her at all today. If I'm lucky, maybe she'll be gone when I get back from work, but my luck's not that good, I suppose. On getting her out though, I was telling my parents what was happening, and my mother was adamant I wasn't kicking her out onto the streets. Her and my mother are close and always have been. We'd have been together 11 years in December. My mother was saying she made a mistake and that we should sort it out like adults, that we've been through too much together, and that she didn't actually do anything. It was just words. She completely took her side over mine. Couldn't believe it. How the hell am I doing here? Like, do I have no right to ask her to leave if my mother is against it? It's literally gonna be my house when my parents pass and I did nothing wrong, so I'm not leaving. It's probably gonna turn into War of the Roses Part 2. I managed to get myself an appointment with a divorce lawyer for next week, so I'll be going to that to discuss my options. Until then, I'm just gonna ignore my soon-to-be ex-wife, I guess. I know she's probably not going to confess anything else now. I'll never know if she was a really good liar or she was just talking to him to get him on side with her for an affair. Anyways, sorry about the delay in the update. Just got the chance to write it now as I'm finishing work. Well, back to the funhouse, I guess. Monday, the 16th of November, it's been 20 days since I discovered my wife was trying to cheat on me with my friend, and the situation has turned into a nightmare. I told her to get out in a month and she's been sleeping in the spare room, but it's obvious now she's not planning to leave after she got my mother on her side. She doesn't have anywhere to go anyway, but that's not my problem. I've met with my divorce lawyer several times and am now working on a divorce petition and having my wife serve divorce papers. I've also opened my own bank account and taken 50% of the money from our joint account. The mood around the house has been strange to say the least. The living room has become a no-go zone where no one hangs out as we both stay in our rooms most of the time. I've also been working late on purpose, so I don't have to deal with her much. I had been totally ignoring her, but after reading about the 180, have started doing that and been polite if a bit cold to her. I'm so glad I did this, as I was starting to feel like a beast for not acknowledging her existence. It was not the right way to act, and I ended up feeling like the one who had hurt her, not the other way around. The only time I broke from the 180 was when I walked into the bathroom last week and she was sitting on the floor by the bath crying. I helped her up and automatically gave her a hug, but it was more of a there type hug than one with much love in it. The sad thing is that I'm so wary of her now that I wouldn't be surprised if she was waiting for me to come in so she could put on a show. The thing is, that probably isn't even true, but this is the sort of thing that's going through my head in this environment. It's just toxic. She's been going on about how she'll do anything and everything to save this marriage, anything to prove to me that it was just a silly mistake. So I brought up a lie detector test. I don't intend to ever get one done. Wouldn't even know where to begin. I just wanted to see her reaction. She was all for it. Well, until a few hours later when she came to me, tablet in hand, going on about how unreliable they are, and that anxiety and nervousness can mess up the results. And with her and her anxiety disorder and all, I just laughed. Wasn't even a normal kind of laugh either. It started as a bit of a snicker and ended in a childish giggle. It seems she would do everything to save this marriage. Well, everything except take a lie detector test, that is. It doesn't even matter anyway. I meant what I said in my op. Every bit of love I had for her vanished into the air after I read her say those awful things. I don't see her as my true love anymore, the person I could share anything with and would trust with my life. I just see rubbish. Rubbish that needs to be thrown out before it stinks the place up. Jacket Holder has been the talk of the town since I exposed him to our friend group a few weeks back. It's safe to say he has no friends left among us and has been completely shunned. I tried calling him a few times, but he wouldn't answer, then blocked my number. That little rat, I hope it was worth it. I've talked to my mother many times about this, and during a heated argument asked her why she was siding with my wife. Like, was there something she was hiding from me here? What was she hoping for? Us to live like flatmates? Pretend like nothing happened? It's absurd. She said she has always seen my wife as the daughter she never had, but always wanted. My mother had a stillborn daughter before I was born, and it has haunted her, so she attached to my wife and has done since we got together. As I said before, they have a close bond. The fact my wife doesn't have any family and only a few friends who have their own busy lives and families means if I kicked her out, she would be all by herself, and my mom thinks that's unacceptable, especially during a pandemic. She tried to get me to agree to a compromise, saying that in 3 or 4 months we can look at it again and see where we are mentally, and is pushing me to try couples counseling before I give up. I'm not doing that. The idea of being in the same house as my wife over Christmas makes me sick. She'll want to do it right as she does every year, and it'll be a complete farce. My dad, God bless him, has never been much of a talker. Never high nor low, just always there. He's a quiet, proud, but timid man, and my mother's word has always been the one that counts in our house. People on here have been telling me that I'm selfish and spoiled, cause it's not my house, and I have no right to make demands, but it's now a case of my wife or me for my parents. If worse comes to worst, then I'm ready to walk out the door and never come back. This house, I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror with some semblance of self-respect, and someone has to keep their word in this mess. If I do leave, my friend has said I can stay with him for a few weeks or so till I get myself sorted. If I do walk out that door though, I'm done with my parents. I'll never speak to them again in my life. They'll probably see it as me giving up on them, me walking away without trying to at least have a shot at fixing things first. I see it as them choosing someone who broke my heart over me. Like, what will be the logistics of this once I'm gone? Just her staying there herself? My mother and father looking after a traitor while their flesh and blood goes off alone? A little more info on the house. My parents let us move in a year after our wedding. It was an apparent belated wedding gift. Although that was just the talk from them at the time, they were always planning on moving out and moving us in. I've spent tens of thousands on it over the years, but that's neither here nor there. I have fantasies of leaving this all behind, going somewhere new and starting again, but I don't have anywhere else to go. I've lived in this town my entire life. It's all I know. Am I being too harsh here? I'm literally ready to catapult my parents right out of my life, but I feel so torn. Why am I the one who has to lose everything and everyone? I've tried to be good, and I always thought you make your own luck, and that good things happen to good people. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I deserve all I get. Wednesday, December 2nd. Well, since this morning, I don't call that house home anymore. I saw on the calendar that my wife had a hospital appointment with her eye doctor, so knowing she would be gone for a few hours, I took that as a chance to get my stuff together and move out, which I did. After getting my things moved and sorted, I just left the house keys on the kitchen table, along with the divorce papers I got from the divorce lawyer last week, and was on my way. I've blocked both my wife and mother's numbers, and any communication I have with my wife from now on will be done through my lawyer. As for my living situation, I'm staying with a friend for a week or two, but hopefully I should be in my own rented place before Christmas. I haven't spoken to my parents in a few weeks. Last time we spoke was via text, and I tried to tell my mother, in clear detail, the things my wife was saying during her text to jacket holder, why it hurt me so much, and why I didn't think it was her first time doing it with the whole, "I'm good at keeping secrets" comment, and thus could never trust her again. My mother texts back saying she couldn't talk to me when I was like this, and she would let me cool off. She tried to call me a few days ago, and I just ignored her call, and as said a bit further up, since today have blocked her number. I feel so let down by my parents, and at this point, it almost feels worse than the original betrayal from my wife. The way I'm feeling right now, I don't think I'll ever talk to them again. I think in times of trouble, you look to your family to be strong for you, to be a rock and give you the wronged one's support. My parents have been weak. They've made me feel like the one in the wrong, like I'm overreacting, and it's me that's tearing this family apart. Well, it's not. I didn't ask them to move mountains for me, just move my cheating wife out the house and they made their choice. My father also had the chance to put his foot down for once in his life and stand up for me, but didn't. You make your choices and you live with them, I guess. Reading some of the comments on here from my previous posts, people have been saying things like, "I gave up so easily, I was looking for a way out and didn't love my wife because I didn't try hard enough to save things." But that's not true. I loved my wife more than anyone on this earth, and I was shattered when I found out what she was doing. I think we all have boundaries, and once those boundaries have been crossed, things change forever. When I read those awful texts, something changed inside of me. I fell out of love with her, like being snapped out of a spell in the movies. Anything tried after that is just wasting time. I have to say that I'm curious about the whole dynamic of their relationship now that I'm gone. Like, are my parents going to keep supporting her knowing that it has ended their relationship with their son? As for me, I'd love to travel. My wife hated flying, so most of our holidays had been to southern England, the likes of Newquay and Torquay and Cornwall and Devon, so it would be great to travel abroad again. The last time I was abroad was when I was 20 for a mate's holiday in Greece, so 13 years ago. I'd love to see a bit of America, so once this pandemic settles down, I've definitely got my sights on the States. Well, that's about it for me, I guess. This will be my last post, as I don't want to overstay my welcome, and I don't think there's much more to say at any rate. If you want to see how I'm doing down the line, shoot me a DM, and I'll try and keep you in the loop. Wednesday, May 26th, 2021. It's been over 7 months since I first posted on social media, and I honestly thought that was the end of it for me, as I didn't need any more advice. I had made my decisions and done what I said I would, but I got a phone call this morning that has pulled me back into the mess. I have moved 15 miles away, changed my phone number, and am still in the middle of divorcing my wife. She has completely disregarded all the requests from my divorce lawyer to cooperate, which has slowed things down. We're now in the process of putting in an application for deemed service and trying to have her served officially by the courts. If she continues to ignore, then I can go ahead with a divorce without her input. Well, this morning, while at work, I got a phone call from my friend, telling me that my dad was trying to reach me as my mother is not well, and would it be okay if he gave him my number? I said okay, and my dad phoned to tell me mom is in hospital. She's stable though, not great. Obviously, I was shocked as I've not heard my dad's voice for so long. It was also the most emotional I've ever heard him. He told me my mom really wants to see me, so would I meet him at the hospital tonight and go in and see her with him? I said okay, and I've arranged to meet him outside the hospital. I ended up going home from work as I couldn't focus, and I'm climbing the walls here, wondering if I've made the right decision, wondering if I'm about to get sucked back into this drama that I walked away from. I've never felt so nervous in my life, and the lack of control I have over the situation has sent my mind spinning in lots of different directions. I feel like I'm walking into a burning building blindfolded with no idea where the exits are. Why does she want to talk to me now? Has she had a change of mind? Unless she's also had a personality change while in there, I find that unlikely. Will my wife be there? I have no desire to ever see her again. I'm still angry about what happened with them, and the way they took my cheating wife's side over mine. I've been going back and forth in my head about going at all, but I will go. I was also thinking about seeing if she wanted to talk over the phone instead, but not sure if she would do that or even if she's well enough. I feel like the villain here, and that I might have caused this from walking away. How would you handle this? Saturday, May 29th. So I did end up going to the hospital on Wednesday night after a lot of hesitation. I was really about to bail at the last minute as I felt my nerve failing, but I needed some closure and knew that I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't go and something happened. When I drove into the hospital car park, I had this weird feeling of paranoia and was half expecting my wife to pop out from behind a bush or something. I met my dad at the entrance, and it was pretty awkward as he tried to hug me, and I said no. I then said if my wife is here in any way, shape, or form, then I am about turning and out the door. He assured me she wasn't, and we made our way to the ward where Mum was. When I saw my mother, I got the shock of my life as she looked like she had been in a fight. I've never seen her look so weak. She's got a severe black eye, also a lot of bruising and purple yellowness down one side of her face. She took a nasty fall, broke 2 ribs, smashed her elbow, and hit one side of her head face on the ground. So elbow, ribs, then head in that order as she went down. She looked lifeless but perked up when she saw me. She told me how much she's missed me and that she wasn't sure she'd ever see me again. I told her if she had really wanted to get a hold of me, she could have done. We spoke for a bit about what exactly had happened and how she was down for a few hours before my dad found her. Also that she was determined to get back to normal and mend bridges with me. I brought up my wife and that I had been pushing for a divorce, but she was either ignoring the letters or wasn't getting them. So I asked if she's still in the house. Mum admitted she was, and Dad started to look uncomfortable. I just looked away in disgust. Mum started saying how lost my wife is without me, and that she's not in a good way. I knew then that nothing will change. She's not had an epiphany or seeing things from a new perspective. She just wants the status quo back. She said that the house is my home and always will be, but I told her I don't want it. It means nothing to me anymore, and all it holds are bad memories. I stayed for less than an hour, all in all. When I left, I said if I want to get in contact, I will, but don't be waiting over the phone for me to call, as you might be waiting a while. When Dad walked me out, he asked if I would keep in touch with him, and I said I would. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Time will tell. When I got home, my emotions were a bit all over the place, from sadness to anger, but I'm glad I went. Couldn't help think about my wife as well, and what she once meant to me. It'll never not hurt. When I look back at everything that's happened in the last 7 months, it honestly doesn't seem real. The speed at which everything crumbled was just astonishing. I know life hits you hard, especially when you're not paying attention, and I wasn't paying attention. It was just pure luck I found out about her trying to cheat on me. Cosmic accident, nothing more. I never noticed the signs or connected the dots. I just saw something on her watch, and it ripped my life apart. I know now that it wasn't the only time. I know it in my heart. I see what she is and feel no love for her, only disgust. I feel she robbed me of the best years of my life. When I think about all the good times, they're just tainted. It feels like someone else's life, not mine. My friend was saying, I should see a therapist or something to try and let everything out, or else this will fundamentally change who I am and the way I build relationships going forward. That's something I'm going to do, I think, as I do feel a bit broken inside. The last 7 months have been the worst of my life, but I'd rather they happen than been kept in the dark. I'm just hurt that it happened the way it did, but you can't choose the way someone screws you over, I suppose. You just have to learn from it. I remember reading about loyalty being the most undervalued character trait, and I see that now. It's probably because you don't really know if someone is truly loyal to you until, well, they're not. It's not something you deal with every day, but now more than ever, I know how important a trait it is. Tuesday, July 20th. First of all, I'm almost done with the divorce process from my wife. She has agreed to the divorce papers and sent them to my divorce lawyer, so the only thing left is the paperwork. She reached out to me through my dad, where she said she's sorry for holding me back, that she hoped she could fix things, but now she realizes she can't, and she has to move on for her own sake. I appreciate her being reasonable. She doesn't ask for anything in the divorce and said she's going to leave the house when she can stand on her own feet, which I'm fine with. Regarding my mother, I haven't talked to her yet, but my dad said she's recovering well after getting out of the hospital and getting some normality back. I don't know how things will turn out with them, but I've said that if the house is going to be mine, then I want them to transfer it to my name now to give me some security. Then we can start trying to mend fences. We'll see how that goes. My biggest challenges ahead are in my mind and trying to heal from everything that has happened. The brain is an amazing yet scary thing. To give you an example, I can still taste the truffles I ate, then vomited, at my grand's house when I was like 5. I never ate truffles after that, but even now, 30 years later, when I think about it, what I'm trying to say is I don't want to dwell on thoughts, feelings, and opinions about everything that's happened 30 years down the line. I don't want to be one of those older people who's had everything good taken away from them by the pain of life. You often hear about those people, how they used to be good, kind, or funny, but somewhere along the line, they've had experiences that have changed them forever, turned them into a person they never wanted to be, and all that's left is pain. I don't want to be that person. I have to let this pain go before it eats me up. I have started therapy and spoken to a psychiatrist both over the phone and in person, and it has helped me a lot to speak openly about everything. If only for a little while, my psychiatrist also said something to me that really resonated with me. When I was complaining about how my best years were over, she said, "Your best years are the years you've got left." What I think she meant is, the past is gone. It doesn't exist, except in your mind, but the present does, and you can choose to make the best of it, or live in a past that isn't real to anyone but you. It's definitely a phrase I'm going to try and remember when I feel low. I said in one of the previous posts that I wanted to travel, and that is finally happening. My friend has agreed to come with me, and we're booking a flight to New York at the beginning of October for a week. Really excited about it. Always wanted to see New York when the leaves change. Reminds me of that movie You've Got Mail. I want this to be just the start of my adventures in terms of traveling. I want my later 30s to be filled with memories from escapades I've had abroad. Well, that's the plan anyway. All I know is that for the first time in what seems like a long time, I'm waking up with hope in my heart and walking with a spring in my step. If that's not progress, then I don't know what is. Wednesday, October 27th. Well, it's been a year since my first post on social media, so I thought I'd give one final update and end things here. First of all, I'm officially divorced now. It feels like a relief, but also a definite closure to what was almost a third of my life. I actually ran into my ex-wife for the first time since last December as I was entering a shop in the town center about a month ago, after seeing a friend. She was coming out of the door just as I was going in. We were both wearing masks, but I recognized her right away and we locked eyes. She muttered something that I couldn't hear. Then we just sort of gazed at each other for a few seconds. Then I went inside. As I was browsing the shop, this feeling of absolute sadness just overwhelmed me, and I had to take a moment to calm myself. It just proves all it takes is one glance for you to feel right back to square one. Do I miss her? No. I miss the person I believed she was, but that person is gone now, if she ever existed. I don't wish her pain or trouble though. I really don't. I just refuse to move on any longer with anger in my heart. The only person it'll hurt in the long run is me. I also learned from a friend's girlfriend that she was certain she saw my ex-wife outside a pub in the city, all over another guy a couple of years ago. Apparently, she never told me or my friend because she wasn't sure it was her and she didn't want to interfere. I'm very angry with her as I could have used that information years ago. It's not definitive, but I could have verified if she was out that night, etc., and it would have spared me a lot of grief in the long run. Now I know why I've always disliked her. One of the reasons we wanted to book a flight to New York in October, besides wanting to see NY in autumn, was that the travel ban between the USA and UK was supposed to be lifted in September for fully vaccinated travelers. Unfortunately, that has now been pushed back to November 8th, which has put our plans on hold. My friend also can't get the time off work now until the new year, so if I'm to go, then I'll have to go by myself, which is a pity because we both wanted to go together. I'm pretty determined to go in the new year with him, though I'll have to think things over more carefully. One thing this pandemic has consistently been able to do is throw up surprises, so I really can't moan or say I'm shocked. I'll get there though. One way or another, this is just the beginning of my journey in that regard. Remember, I'm having trouble when it comes to my parents, in that all I feel towards them is total indifference. I'm just having a hard time feeling anything, and no matter how hard I try, I don't think that'll change. My dad has tried to rebuild the relationship again, but I just don't care anymore. That might sound cruel, but it's the truth. I said in my last post that I wanted them to put the house in my name, though I haven't followed up on that. I think I was just mad at the time and wanted to assert some control at the start of our conversations, but I really didn't care about that house. I think I would rather live in the house from Nightmare on Elm Street than there. It wouldn't change anything anyway. It can't turn back time, unless it's turned into a time-traveling house since I've left, or undo what they did. It's just the sad result of the choices they made. If you are thinking of giving a second chance to a cheater, please stop. I beg you, you are wasting your time and energy. Don't be that person, frantically trying to fix the damage caused by your cheater partner while they happily cause more. I feel more confident than ever after everything that I've been through and reading a lot of infidelity support forums in the last year that you are setting yourself up for more pain if you don't let go. This might sound relevant, but at the beginning of the year, I had a really terrifying experience when I sliced the back of my pant leg on a metal bin while walking past it at work. I didn't notice it had made a cut until I got home, and when I went to sleep at night, I felt kind of strange. I woke up around 2 a.m. and my leg was throbbing. I felt extremely sick, was seeing double, dizzy, and was switching between a high fever and shivers. I realized right away it could be sepsis, so I called an ambulance, which they said was going to be 2 hours plus as it was a Friday night and at peak of pandemic. and my mind was racing like crazy while I was breathing very fast. Do you know what was the only thing that made me calm down when I was really mad? I accepted that I might die, and then for some reason, I just didn't feel scared anymore. I don't know if it was the whole accepting fate state of mind, but when I accepted that it could be the end, it removed all the possibilities out of the equation, and everything became very simple and peaceful. I've been reflecting on it a lot lately, and when I think about cheating betrayal, I feel very similar. You have to accept that what you had is gone. It's history if someone is willing to sink so low and stab you in the back so ruthlessly for their own pleasure. Fighting that hopeless battle is admirable, and all, but when you're going against the wind with slim chances of success, is it worth it? Is it worth the agony? I don't think so. I understand everyone has their own situations with kids, etc., but some battles are just plain foolish. Accept that it's over and things will soon become clearer. That's just my opinion. It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Tyler Durden. It's strange. I haven't expressed my thoughts and feelings since I was in high school. I work on roofs for a living. This experience, though, has brought out that side of me, a side that I had pretty much buried. If something positive has come from this mess, it's that I'm not going to keep things inside any longer. It's been therapeutic for me to put things out there and see the bigger picture of my situation. Writing things down has helped me more than I ever expected, so it's something I'm going to keep doing, even if it's just writing to myself on a journal or notepad. I think there are moments in your life when all is said and done that you can mark and say, things were on a thin line that day and could have gone either way. I cringe to think what would have happened had I not asked for help on here, or seen those dog walkers. I'd probably have been blackout drunk, at death's door in a ditch somewhere, or in prison for shooting Darren, aka Jacket Holder, right through his window frame after tearing through his house like a storm. Honestly though, it scares me to think where I'd have ended up if things had gone wrong. I was not in a good state, and being drunk, ashamed, and furious with rage is a mix that can cause havoc whatever way you slice it. In the end, I'm just glad I made it out the other side without harming myself or someone else. Most of my posts have been about the details of what was happening. However, I think the last few have been more about how I feel about what has happened. Betrayal just triggers such intense and intrusive thoughts. There's no action on this earth quite like it. Being betrayed by people that you love? In so many ways it's unique, and the feelings you have after it are by the same token, equally unique. So thanks for listening to me, I said in my first post after finding out that I felt like a worse person than I was yesterday. Well, after everything that has happened, I feel like a stronger one too. Thank you for reading my story.